The Titans. Victory was inevitable, but can we break the cycle? Okay, look at this. I mean, here we go. We got another video from Zaxxas. Timeline Prison. We're getting into Titan shit. Probably last Titan stuff. Look, right now with this patch coming out, we are basically now pushing into the final half of the World Soul Saga. We're going to start to get Titan sit. We're going to start to get into a lot of this shit. Maybe back from Shadowlands as well. There's some interesting hints here with the trailer, with the thumbnail. Let's get into this video here. Can we break the cycle, boys? From Zaxxas.
Time is a flat circle, a serpent devouring its own tail, and Azeroth is the key to shaping the fate of the cosmos. Today we ask the questions, who are the makers of legend? What exactly did Sylvanas mean by the Shadowlands are not at all what they seem? And to echo Iridikron, haven't you questioned why the Titans preserve this timeline? Strap in as we...
You know, I forgot he even said that. I'm not going to pause a lot here on the earliest part, but I completely forgot he did say this timeline specifically is very important to the Titans. Interesting.
We break down how this all connects through one mind-blowingly simple concept, the bootstrap paradox. Simply put, this is a time travel paradox that occurs when an object, event, or even information becomes its own cause of origin and creates an infinite loop with that subject.
Interesting.
But let's use an example from Warcraft canon that lays out the bootstrap paradox perfectly. In the War of the Ancients novel trilogy, when Crassus and Ronin travel 10,000 years into the past just before the Sundering, Crassus speaks the name Deathwing to the dragon aspects before this name had yet existed. The aspects don't yet recognize this name, but surely enough, as they witness Neltharion's fall, they too decide that Deathwing is indeed a fitting moniker.
And it's interesting when shit like this happens, whether in this game or in a movie or anything like that, when you have basically somebody going back who knows what the future is going to be, and they basically, it's almost like altering time, right? You go back and you mention something before it happens. Does that mean that that thing happened because you mentioned it? Or is it just that your mention of it is basically because it happened? Do you get what I'm saying? There's like infinite loop. He talks about it a little bit in the start of this video, the infinite loop shit, where it's like, what is causation? What was the causation of the shit? Or was it just that the shit happened and you know that it happened and you caused it to happen because you went back in time and you mentioned that it happened? It gets crosswiry real quick. Some, chicken or egg shit. Right, so them mentioning the name Deathwing, is that part of what led to the, maybe they would have handled shit differently if they had never heard the name Deathwing before and what was going to come of Deathwing? Maybe they would have tried to help him, but they already knew that he was a lost cause because he had been mentioned before? It's some weird shit there.
Arian's fall. They
always
too
timeline
decide
plague, it's
that
weird.
Deathwing is indeed a fitting moniker. So, if Crassus originally learned that name from the Aspects during his lifetime, and the Aspects now learned it from Crassus, who truly invented the name? Nobody? That's actually right. The very name Deathwing no longer has a natural origin in the timeline.
Right.
It is a closed loop, an anomaly of the paradox, what theoretical physicists call a Jinn particle. An object or piece of information that exists in a closed time loop, having no discernible origin or creator, as it is its own cause and effect. In the seamless yet inconsistent threads of time, Crassus's memory of the name Deathwing is now the only traceable source of the name. This bootstrap paradox will serve as the frame of reference for us to lay out one delicate way where the timeless mysteries of the first ones and the Titans all connect. No retcons required. Before we start, I want you to imagine this with me. If the name Deathwing can become a paradox and create a closed causal time loop, could Azeroth itself also be a Jinn particle, locked in its own eternal loop? Imagine a scenario where Azeroth was made the location and power source for a sort of time machine. Wondrous tools left behind by the makers to be repeatedly rediscovered by their earlier selves.
Jesus, this shit starts to get mindfuckery. But But all this timeline play and all this stuff, and do we break the line, right? He's showing this circle here. Can we break this infinite loop here? Maybe that's what we get into. But if we do break it, what happens? Does this lead to the great reset that I've talked about many times before, where after the World Soul Saga, we get almost a return to the basics? I've talked about Aman'Thul, and if we fight him, this guy manipulates time. Does he try to manipulate time in the fight? You know, does he try to take us back to a time when we were weaker? And then we finish him off, but then we're left in this basically resetted timeline where he took us back to the beginning. And that kind of creates like a WoW 2 reset. I don't know. But yeah, breaking this loop, interesting concept.
Ignited and used to rule over time itself for an eternity. Today, we'll explore this concept beginning with the ancient titan Aman'Thul, his dictation of the one true timeline, his keeper Odin, his dragon aspect of choice, and closing with Medivh's promise to end the cycle.
It's all coming together, boys.
Nobody knows when or why the first titan awoke, but legend holds his name was Aman'Thul. We begin this enigmatic titan's journey in Chronicle Volume 1, where we learn of his lonely search for more beings like himself out there in the great dark beyond.
Aman'Thul himself is like some kind of weird time loop. Because we all know, like, Aman'Thul basically birthed the other titans from planets. Okay, that's how that all that shit happened. But who the hell birthed Aman'Thul? It's again the chicken or the egg. Where did he come from? Is he like the god of titans? I mean, it seems like he's their leader at least, right? He seems to be the most knowledgeable of the titans, the most powerful of them. Even though he got bitch slapped by Sargeras. I mean, I don't know how powerful he is, but he's at least the original, right? The originator. But where did he come from? Who created him? That shit goes back to the first ones and all that other stuff. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe Zax is going to address it here. But that's always been a weird thing. Is Aman'Thul himself a closed loop? I have no idea.
Eventually, Aman'Thul finds more of his kind, and together, these titans take sacred oaths to protect life whenever possible, setting out to
He's
nurture
like Zeus,
any
yeah.
remaining world souls. More recently, we learned from Arcadus that the Pantheon's mission was also fueled by the hope that they would find the Prime World Soul.
Yes.
And in Dragonflight, Titan Keeper Odin details another big piece of the puzzle, admitting, quote,
Mortals could not conceive of the wonders that the Makers granted to the Titans in Zereth Ordis.
To many, Odin's edict disproves that the Titans could even be the first ones. But for us, today, it's a keystone. And using it, we're going to build the arch that bridges who the Makers really are. Where
Damn, this is like the freaking, you know, with the strings and the little pins and the board and all that shit connecting everything. This is some wild, deep shit.
Zereth Ordis likely is, and how Aman'Thul even acquired his wondrous powers in the first place. Really quick addition for those who didn't know.
So we are
before
talking
Shadowlands
origin.
and Dragonflight, the term the Makers had only ever been used in regards to the Titans. It's not until Zovaal mentions them, and Odin after, that a separation is made between the two for the first time ever. Now back to it. For if the Makers did grant wonders to the Titans, we have to look at the greatest wonder that Aman'Thul ever wielded, his mastery over time.
Yes.
And by
That's
extension,
huge.
the power bestowed upon his dragon aspect to preserve it.
Nozdormu.
After the defeat of
Look, Nozdormu, I've talked about him a lot already. I have a thumbnail literally where Zalateth is like holding Nozdormu because I feel like he's going to be relevant again. I feel like at some point his maybe change over to the Infinite Dragonflight and all that other stuff. It could, I don't know if she could be involved in it or what, but clearly if there's going to be timeline manipulation and all kinds of stuff with Aman'Thul, you can't talk about Aman'Thul without talking about our basically direct connection to him, which is Nozdormu, yes, and his change to Murozond, exactly for it. So maybe we get Murozond. We've already actually dealt a lot with the Infinite Dragonflight recently, more than we have ever in the past, and that's through the remix events. Those remix events are canon. Like, they happen in the game. Remix is just infinite dragonflight variations on timelines happening, and then we come back. And the reason why your character eventually transfers into regular retail WoW is because that's a real event that's occurring in the game. We just play it as a separate piece of the game, but eventually your character gets integrated because it's an actual thing happening through the infinite dragonflight. So we're already dealing more with them. Could there be even more to come from them? We'll see.
Of Galakrond, the Titans rewarded Tyr's proto-drake allies by ascending them into the dragon aspects we know, and each of them were blessed with unique powers. It is said that Aman'Thul gifted one of his many abilities, the mastery over time, to Nozdormu, saying,
Unto you is charged the great task of keeping the purity of time.
Sacred
Know
timeline.
that there is only one true timeline, though there are those who would have it otherwise. You must protect it, for without the truth of time as it is meant to unfold, more will be lost than you could possibly imagine. The fabric of reality will unravel, for nothing can transpire without time.
And since that day, Nozdormu has been burdened to hold together the flow of time, as dictated by his Titan master. But
Yes.
that was millennia ago, and in Cataclysm, then Dragonflight, we saw Nozdormu both lose and, more importantly, regain the sands of time, receiving a second blessing from Azeroth.
Yes, that's right.
So I ask you, was it ever truly Aman'Thul that had the ability to charge Nozdormu with his powers over time? Or was the Prime World Soul always the true source of a borrowed power? Since Azeroth
Interesting.
can bless Nozdormu again, what does this reveal to us about the World Soul's own wondrous power to shape the fate of time?
Well, true. If she can gift Nozdormu the ability to, see through time, manipulate time a little bit, that kind of stuff, then clearly Azeroth had that ability, right? She can't give him what she didn't have. So I never even really thought in the reverse, like, oh, Nozdormu still has the ability to see through time and shit. Well, where do you get it from? You got it from Azeroth. Does that mean Azeroth could have seen through time too? I guess so.
Could the goddess's new blessing rival Aman'Thul's charge to guard the one true timeline? And if Azeroth has always had this timeless potential, what does that tell us about the forges and machines powered by her world soul, such as the First One's Heart of Eternity, or even this infamous Zereth Ordis that Odin spoke of?
The grand design. I love this video so far. It's great.
In the finale of Shadowlands, the jailer found his way through Zereth Mortis.
So did the dragons fuck our planets? Well, we all know the aspects, right? The dragon aspects. They were always kind of a Titan, pawn. Basically, the Titans gave them their powers, and they were just meant to keep the order together, keep everything, in order, keep the arcane shit together, keep the life shit together with the Reds.
Another death knight.
Kale Sauce, thank you so much for the Prime, man. Keep the timeline together with the Yellows. Like, they all had basically, they were like, world police, keeping everything in line and in order. A very Titan-esque goal, right? So, yeah, I mean, they kind of did fuck us. They're just, they're keeping they're keeping everything together the way the Titans want it done.
And into the sepulchre of the First Ones. There, he took the portal to a separate, central, and different cosmic space, the Heart of Eternity. Zovaal activated the machine of origination there and began to siphon the world soul of Azeroth through the Zereth network. The forges lit for his new cosmos. At the core of that mechanical wonder, we see a globe depicting Azeroth, the clear source of the machine's power, harnessed as the center point of a manifold between each of the Zereths, Zereth Ordis included. And here is where our bootstrap paradox comes full circle. I propose that the Heart of Eternity and the Zereth realm machines of the First Ones are the Jinn particles of our equation. The wonders left behind by the
Closed loops?
Maker's ultimate victory over time.
Damn, we get into we got loops within loops. This shit's getting crazy. Oh my god, we're basically wrapped in tinfoil at this point.
Just
But
like
I love it.
Deathwing's name, the wonders of the Zereths no longer have a natural origin
Right.
in the one true timeline. They exist in a closed time loop, decided long ago by the first incarnation of the Titan Pantheon, who successfully found and subjugated the Prime World Soul. To Iridikron's query, why do the Titans preserve this timeline? I say, because the Titans' preferred timeline, oh so guarded by the bronze dragons, is the one where they've already succeeded. And
That makes
Azeroth
sense.
is but the power slave for their eternal conquest. What the Jailer attempted in 9.2 had already been accomplished in the name of order, before the universe as we know it began. What we in the Titans' Keepers know of as the First Ones are only the remnants of memory. A legend of an infinite pattern written and drawn to ensure that the cycle endures. A writhing, timeless serpent forced to devour its own tail until eternity's end.
So this is the one where they win, right? They preserve the timeline where they win in the end. And we know that. And by the way, one interesting thing about the Bronze Dragonflight in Nozdormu is they preserve the one that the Titans selected, but that's all he can really see. Anything beyond that, his vision's always been clouded, right? And his transformation into Murozond was always seen as dangerous because Murozond sees beyond what the Titans want him to see. He sees all the timelines. He's an infinite dragon. He sees infinite timelines. So that's, I always said, is Murozond really bad? Or does he just know too much, and that's why the Titans don't want him to happen? Because if he does, then his eyes are open. Right now, Nozdormu, his eyes are just blazed and stuck on whatever the Titans want him to do, which is that one specific timeline.
So, where exactly is this Zereth Ordis that the Titans are said to have discovered? Well, instead of imagining a distant world, think about Azeroth as a cosmic nesting doll, with hidden, layered dimensions folded beneath the earth of the world soul, just like Harandar. Harandar is said to be nowhere in particular, and yet evidently it is technically underground, in a mystical realm below with the roots of the world trees meeting at the central cradle and den. The Emerald Dream adjacent realm of Harandar serves as a parallel to the Heart of Eternity that we saw in Shadowlands, where the roots and trees can be likened to the separate Zereth pylons and portals around the Machine of Origination, and the now bereft cradle likened to the heart of the Zereths, powered by the Prime World Soul. This allows us to see how the First One's machinery and the Zereths aren't necessarily cosmically distant realms, but akin to Harandar, are nearer to the source. Protecting or imprisoning the vulnerable world soul where it slumbers, not extracting it elsewhere. Since our connection to Azeroth,
instead of completely different zones or whatever, they're all just layers of protection over the world soul, each one getting closer.
Seems to allow us to access the First One's portals and shrines across the Shadowlands, then I'd argue that the origins and locus of the Zereth realms are also tethered to the world soul, and the Titans discovered these hidden realms when they ordered Azeroth. This would pair well with Azeroth, not just Aman'Thul, being the source of Nozdormu's blessing as the aspect of time. And perhaps the greatest wonder granted by the Makers was truly stolen from the Prime World Soul. And ever since, the Titans and their keepers have been preserving this one true timeline. Now you might be thinking, if the flow of time has been decided from the beginning, what could we possibly do? What's different this time?
So if we break the timeline, because Aman'Thul and all their powers basically come from Azeroth, if we break it, that means they lose their powers. That's what it would be, because Aman'Thul has his powers because he's preserved this looping timeline. And it's to us, he's always had the powers, but the reason why he has the powers is because this timeline gives him the powers, and it just keeps going around and around and around. And if you break it, he loses his power. Shit. Mind-breaking stuff.
Well, like Jaina and Thrall said, we are. This is what Iridikron wants us to realize, because he trusts that we can actually do something about it. And it's why he invites us to ask that vital question.
Iridikron's going to play a role.
To wrap our heads around our role in this, we have to challenge ourselves to perceive time just as the Titans do. And that
maybe the Titan's immortality even comes from Azeroth. Maybe Tech Tim. I mean, we know one thing that Xal'atath is after. She's talked about it many times, is immortality, right? She always says, like, the one thing that matters is survival, right? And she talks about living forever. Maybe that's what her interest is in Azeroth. She knows that the Titan's immortality comes from Azeroth, too. That's a good point.
The question,
that's maybe why she's interested in
all
Azeroth.
Of the tragedies? The Void? The Burning Crusade? Indeed, even the Legion and the Old Gods are just part of the price of victory. The sacrifice is necessary to safeguard their closed loop and forever protect life. A bloody toll paid by mortals for the sake of their grand design. And that's because mortals are the crux of their plan.
I was going to say, maybe that's why the Titans dislike our free will so much and everything, right? If you keep it, like the Titans know basically everything, Aman'Thul specifically, to keep this closed loop going. He knows every event that's going to play out and how it's going to play out. Like he knew Sargeras was going to do his burning crusade and all that shit was going to go down, and eventually we were going to defeat Argus and imprison Sargeras once again. All that shit happens, right? Exactly as it's planned to happen. But you know what's the hardest thing to control in that closed loop? These annoying beings with free will. These annoying things on Azeroth with their free will. And it's very hard to keep them in line because they could make some decision that kind of breaks the loop, right? They decide not to kill the World Soul, and they decide not to re-imprison Sargeras, and they decide any one of those events could be broken by free will. So it's that is, I think, the biggest crux of this entire closed loop is us, right? That's what it all comes back to. So yeah, that's interesting. And that puts us really at the center of the entire story.
And they can't do it without us. For example, take Lady Elisande from Legion. As we face her in the Nighthold, she scries through the eye of Aman'Thul in an attempt to find the timeline where she wins.
Oh.
However, even this pillar of creation
she couldn't see it,
cannot
right?
show Elisande the victory she seeks.
That's
and the
right.
indomitable heroes of Azeroth vanquish the Grand Magistress again and again. And
yes, Doc, it is very Matrix-esque. And Zaxxus in chat says, yep, we might be witnessing the first version of the broken loop. Yes, I think the infinite dragonflight getting its powers from Azeroth and all that, that's surely a break in the loop.
again. Because even Aman'Thul is not truly omniscient. He can only envision a Titan victory as long as we comply with his foresight and planning.
Right.
And how do the Titans ensure such perfect compliance? Well, as they so kindly put it, ordering the cosmos and spoon-feeding us narratives to ensure their prized one true timeline endures.
Right.
The timeline where Azeroth's mortal champions willingly or unknowingly aid the Pantheon in their abuse of the World Soul's power and allow the First One's cycle to continue.
Yeah, I always say us killing Argus was really weird. Like, I feel like we shouldn't have done that. Maybe the World Soul could have been saved or something, but it just really seemed like we got baited into that by the Titans. Like, hey, here's this World Soul. Go fuck him up, boys. And then we just did it because there's loot involved and we got to get the loot, right? So that there's been a couple boss fights where you wonder, like, should we have really killed that? Was that really a bad guy? I don't know. I think we were kind of led to believe they were.
Through edicts and oaths, prophecies and fates, we are bound to this subtle servitude. But Azeroth's will, and the will of her champions, is only limited by what they believe. And that's exactly why we are the shapers of fate. For as we learned in the Shadowlands, time and fate are so intertwined.
The loom of time.
This is where the Shadowlands' darker purpose becomes clear. As Odin's edicts famously state,
Life is chaos. It must be controlled.
but to control life completely, you must also control their
I can't wait to kill Odin. I want to kill that fucking guy. He is such a piece of shit.
spirits in death. Back in developer previews, we were told that the Shadowlands manages just one outcome of many endless threads that make up the time stream of a character. Take Garrosh Hellscream, for example. There are timelines where Garrosh is a hero, a loathing wretch, a monster, or a leader, all of which we see manifested in our Garrosh Prime.
He was a
at one
hero in
time or
ours,
another.
right?
Yet in the Shadowlands, it is our Garrosh whose soul is judged and sent to Revendreth, as is the case with many legacy characters we see in the Shadowlands.
Right.
Among them being Thrall's mother, Draka, who is once again from our one true timeline. Denizens of the Shadowlands will say, time is not a construct of death, feigning unfamiliarity with the concept, only they call it by another name, fate. Fates that are judged by their actions in the one true timeline, and not alternatives.
Which
Fate
stage
and
does
time
Doctor
are
Doom come in?
inextricably
There is, yeah, I saw Hotstitute's comment and everything. There is a lot of Marvel Phase 4 timeline broken shit, closed loop stuff that's happening here that happens there. And it would make sense. I mean, those comics were written already. And yes, people at Blizzard, including Metzen, do love the Marvel stories. So they do take inspiration from that.
linked, and the Shadowlands is reliant on both, because as proven by Elasan's struggle, if we defy time, we will define time. For the one true timeline is not a loop that is truly preordained, but safeguarded and imposed through methods in life and in death. And who by? Well, who else but the first ones? A name so bold it reeks of the very hubris attributed to the Titans, who are criticized for their habit of claiming they are the creators of that which they have only reforged. Beyond harvesting anima, the Shadowlands serves a darker purpose for the sake of the timeline: isolation. Pure, natural ancestral communion is a massive threat to the Maker's grand design. For if the mystics of today could speak to the oldest
Yes, I was just about to say, all of the Earth Mother stuff, all of the, even with the Night Elves, God, why am I drawing a blank on her name right now? The Moon Goddess. All of those like outside gods and stuff that whisper stuff to the beings of Azeroth, those are all like issues that the Titans have to deal with because, yeah, Elune, exactly. That's the name I was trying to think of. Those are all things that the Titans have to deal with that seem to be outside of their influence. And they worry about the denizens of Azeroth being influenced by these other beings that are whispering things to them and telling them truths that they don't want them to know. So I think all that lore is going to come into relevance again here, too. As Axis says, Iridikron looks like Doom. Hell, the Incarnates are the Fantastic Four. True. That is true.
souls, the patterns of oppression throughout the ages would reveal themselves. So Oribos is their calculated solution, a funnel catching threads from the loom of time and caging the dead, severing the living from the memory of the past. The Makers twisted time into a prison and called their wonder Eternity. And that's why Zovaal tried to end it, to remake the flawed design and shatter the cycle.
Oh, we got some Zovaal
In the
lore.
Sylvanas novel, we read that during his aeons as the Arbiter, judging every mortal soul that funneled out of the one true timeline, Zovaal realized a terrifying truth. He says to Sylvanas, quote,
From the moment they drew their first breath until they exhaled their last, the choice was never theirs.
mortals
loop.
were, quote, fragile beings, left to the fickle whims of fate. He continued,
Most deny it, a few eventually accept it, but no one can escape it.
Oh,
Because
shit.
escape has never been a part of the Maker's grand design.
Some Matrix-esque shit, the jailer's the jailer, Zovaal was right, yes, there sure looks like it.
No one escapes the maw or any of the infinite afterlives forged to bind mortal souls. From its conception to execution, and throughout all that has been and is, the design is gravely, cruelly, and worst of all, indifferently flawed.
Some big shit here.
When Zovaal rebelled against this flawed design, the Pantheon of Death replaced him. As he tells Sylvanas, they took the essence of his power and fashioned a new arbiter, one without a will to defy the grand design.
Yes. Why? Because free will is a problem. That's a common theme here.
Together, we will show every soul that both their lives and the eternity that awaits them are prisons. And we will bring them true freedom.
Damn, man.
Where the jailer failed was in trying to dominate the goddess when what she needs is liberation. Because when the flow of time has been rigged from the get-go, what can one do to fix it but break time itself and start anew?
Man, when Sylvanas said this world is a prison, right? You know, I think she didn't know everything yet, but I guess she wasn't wrong. I mean, a closed loop does feel like a prison. There's our boy Murazan. I'm telling you guys, man. He ain't so bad after all. Maybe he's just a teller of truths.
This is what Iridikron and our heroes are closer than ever to achieving. Bringing the Titans' one true timeline to a thundering halt and
There it
prying
is.
this world
The
from
break.
their grasp once and for all. To quote the infinite dragon Aeonus, "The time has come to shatter this clockwork universe forever. Let us no longer be slaves of the hourglass."
I'm telling you guys, man, the Infinite Dragon flight, you want to know the truth? You go ask an Infinite Dragon the truth. You don't go ask any of these freaking, Titan peddling loser Bronze Dragon flight boys. It's the Infinites. They're the ones who know everything because they see so much more. It'd be crazy if these old lines from the game all become relevant again.
So, which is it?
Medivh's
A
promise.
clock or an hourglass? We'll close out with a fireside chat between Khadgar and Medivh from the story The Last Guardian that tackles just that. Upon his first arrival to Karazhan, the young apprentice Khadgar experienced visions of a world with red skies, fighting orcs before he had ever even encountered them. He asks Medivh what these visions are, and their conversation takes a turn when Medivh makes a bizarre comment about the origins of Karazhan's magical potency, sharing, quote, "I'm just saying, there are places of power which for some reason or another become the seats of great power. One such location is here in the Red Ridge Mountains. Once long ago, something powerful exploded here, carving out the valley and weakening the reality around it." "And that's why you sought it out," prompted Khadgar. "There was an explosion that created this place of magical power. You then came." Medivh shook his head, but instead said, "That's all true if you look at it in a linear fashion. But what happens if the explosion occurred because I would eventually come here
Oh,
and the
shit.
place needed to be ready for me?" Khadgar's face knitted. "But things don't
The
happen
loop,
like that.
boys.
In the normal world, no, they do not," said Medivh. "But magic is the art of circumventing the normal." "But for that to happen to the area to be prepared for you," started Khadgar, "the world would have to be very different than it seems, which it truly is, after all," answered Medivh. And so Medivh begins to lay out two analogies: time as a clock and time as an hourglass. Medivh explains how a mechanical clock is carefully constructed by its maker, knowing each step that the hands will take before the clock begins ticking.
Good analogy.
Every time the clock finishes its rotation, it repeats exactly as before, as
True.
it's designed to. Same beginning, same middle, same outcome. An hourglass, on the other hand, is a process of less predictable events when restarted. Medivh proposes that if you numbered every grain of sand that passed through the funnel, that even though they're all in the same end zone together, a careful inspection would reveal that every time, the order in which the grains
They're
passed
different
through
every time,
would
yeah.
be different.
Yeah.
The process of time as an hourglass allows for all kinds of mysterious outcomes along the way.
This is some
Each
high
grain of
philosophy
sand,
shit,
a
man.
being, a soul, a moment, or a memory. So Medivh wraps his point about Karazhan's power into the fold, likening the tower to an hourglass. Khadgar's visions are the grains of sand, slipping through the crooked floorboards in the fabric of the universe. Concluding the study of visions and time, Medivh speaks to a hopeful sentiment that foreshadows his timely return in The Last Titan. Were the tower a clock, the visions would move regularly and be easily explained. But since the tower is an hourglass, then they don't.
Karazhan
They move
relevance
at their
returning.
own speed and defy us to explain their chaotic nature. Medivh leaned back in his chair, which I, for one, am quite comfortable with. I could never really favor an orderly, well-planned universe.
Right. Seems unnatural.
And lastly, in his specter form, Medivh leaves the grizzled Khadgar with a promise. Quote, "As long as there are guardians, there is order. And as long as there is order, the parts are there to be played. Decisions made millennia ago set both your path and mine. It is part of the greater cycle, one that has held us all in its sway." Khadgar craned his head upward. "Perhaps there should not be guardians then, if this has been the price." "Agreed," said Medivh. "But for the
last
moment,
guardian.
for your moment, we must all play our part. We must all pay this price. And then, when we have the chance, we will start anew."
Oh my god, and the chance is coming, boys, and the chance is now. The Last Titan. Basically, Medivh was like, we have to play our part. We have to continue to go through this loop, knowing that it exists. But in order to break it, we need to know more. We need to find the moment when it can be broken. Until then, we'll be good little boys and play our role here. Shit. That's crazy, man. Medivh was always a badass. He got, all corrupted. And this, by the way, means he kind of knew that shit was coming. And it happened anyways. But in the end, he's going to probably play a role that helps us break this thing. It's like reincarnation.
And with
kinda.
that, heroes, we have a visible horizon, a foreseeable future after.
Karazhan made Azeroth? No, Karazhan didn't make Azeroth. Karazhan's like a time leakage point, almost like a font of truth where the loop is a little bit broken, where things leak through more like an hourglass orderly than they do in the closed loop. And that's why they catch glimpses of things happening before they happen that feel like they've already happened. Yeah, Sam the lore plumber, exactly.
The Last Titan, where the world of Warcraft is unchained from the clutching clockwork hands of fate forever. Where the loom of time is demolished and our destinies are finally, truly our own. My name is Zaxxus. Your
That's a
time
great
is
video,
precious, and it's my honor to have you join me on this mythical deep dive. Please share your thoughts and comments too. What do you think about this solution? Does this bootstrap paradox elegantly and simply solve the first one's Titan debate? Or is this overcomplicating a touchy subject and timeline shenanigans should be left off the table? Get typing.
That's great stuff.
And remember, folks, you are the resistance to the Titan's soul matrix.
We're going to break the matrix, boys. That's right, Red Pillar Cell. Amazing. Great video from Zaxxus. I mean, I expect nothing less from the man. He always drops bangers, but man, I mean, how do I even go on with the rest of my day? The time loop shit and everything, my mind feels broken, honestly. Amazing stuff. Will we break the timeline in The Last Titan? We'll find out soon. Nice video overall from Zaxxas.